The monitoring station at Sector 7 Alpha had been watching Sol 3 for over 3,000 years. The small blue planet with its single moon was nothing special to the Galactic Council. The creatures living there had just learned to use metal tools and were still fighting wars with sharp sticks. Ambassador Zektar often used this world as an example of how slowly primitive species developed. On this particular day, Technician Errol was doing his usual scan of the outer rim planets when his equipment started making noises he had never heard before. The energy readings from Sol 3 were wrong, very wrong. Instead of the weak electromagnetic signals that should come from a basic civilization, his instruments were showing power outputs that matched their most advanced worlds. Errol looked at his screen and blinked his 4 eyes. The numbers made no sense. These readings suggested the humans were generating more energy than entire star systems. He checked his equipment 3 times, ran every diagnostic test he knew, and even hit the machine with his tentacle. The readings stayed the same. The creatures on Sol 3 were somehow producing terawatts of energy. This was impossible. Last time the Council checked, these beings had just discovered how to make fire burn hotter using coal. They were nowhere near ready for fusion power or antimatter reactors. Something was very wrong with the monitoring equipment. Errol called his supervisor, who called her supervisor, who called the station commander. Within 1 hour, every piece of monitoring equipment in their sector was pointed at the small blue planet. Every single device showed the same impossible readings. Commander Thexal stared at the data with growing concern. Either every piece of equipment on the station had broken at exactly the same time, or the humans had somehow jumped forward 10,000 years of normal development in just a few decades. Both options scared him. The worst part was what the deep space sensors were detecting. The humans were not just generating massive amounts of energy on their planet. They were using that energy to build things, big things. Metal objects the size of mountains were moving between the planets in their solar system. Some were heading toward the outer edges, toward the area where other civilizations might notice them. Thexal sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council headquarters. Within hours, monitoring stations across 12 different sectors confirmed the same readings. The impossible had happened. The humans were about to discover they were not alone in the universe, and they were coming with technology that should not exist. 3 days later, Ambassador Zektar stood in the emergency council chambers, looking at data that made his scales turn pale. The humans had nuclear weapons, not the simple fusion bombs that most species developed, but weapons designed to destroy entire planets. They had artificial minds that could think faster than most organic beings. They had spacecraft that could travel between worlds in days instead of years. The most terrifying part was that the humans seemed to be enjoying themselves. Their radio transmissions were full of excitement about their new discoveries. They talked about their weapons like they were toys. They discussed traveling to other stars like they were planning a vacation. Elder Counselor Marin raised her ancient voice above the panicked discussions. How is this possible? Our models show it takes at least 10,000 years to develop fusion technology safely. These creatures have done it in less than 100 years. They didn't develop it safely, replied Dr. Vorthon, the Council's expert on primitive species. Our analysis shows they tested their first nuclear weapon while they were still fighting wars with chemical explosives. They built planet-killing weapons before they even left their own atmosphere. They are completely insane. The chamber fell silent as this information settled in. Most civilizations were so careful with dangerous technology that it took millennia to develop safely. The humans had apparently skipped all safety measures and built the most dangerous weapons possible as quickly as they could. Ambassador Zektar looked at the latest reports from their spy satellites. Human ships were now regularly traveling to their outer planets. Their largest vessels were the size of cities and radiated energy signatures that hurt to look at. Some were clearly designed for war, with weapon systems that could level continents. We have perhaps 1 standard year before they reach interstellar space, Zektar announced to the Council. Maybe less if they continue advancing at this rate. We need to decide what to do about them before they find us. The Council chamber erupted in arguments. Some wanted to destroy the humans before they became a threat. Others suggested trying to contact them and guide their development. A few recommended simply fleeing to another galaxy and hoping the humans would not follow. But as they argued, more reports came in. The humans had just launched their largest ship yet. It was heading directly toward the edge of their solar system, toward the area where Council monitoring stations were hidden. The impossible species was about to make first contact whether the Council wanted it or not. Elder Marin stood slowly, her ancient frame trembling with fear and exhaustion. "Perhaps the question is not what we should do about them," she said quietly. "Perhaps the question is what they will do about us." The chamber fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. For the first time in galactic history, the Council was not dealing with a primitive species that needed guidance. They were dealing with something completely new and unpredictable, something that might be more advanced than they were, despite having only recently discovered space travel. As if summoned by their fears, an alert sounded through the chamber. A human vessel had just appeared at the edge of Council space, broadcasting a message on all frequencies in perfect galactic standard language. "Hello? We are humans from Earth. We come in peace and friendship. We would love to meet you." The Council members stared at each other in shock. The humans had not only found them, but had somehow learned their language without any previous contact. The impossible species had just become even more impossible. Ambassador Zektar looked at the message again and felt his blood turn cold. At the bottom of the transmission was a small note that chilled him to his core. "P.S. We brought gifts. Hope you like our music and our nuclear reactor designs." The humans were offering to share their technology. The same technology that had let them advance 10,000 years in a few decades. The same weapons that could destroy planets. They wanted to give it all away as presents. The Galactic Council, which had maintained peace and order for 50,000 years, suddenly felt very small and very unprepared for what was coming next. The Emergency War Council meeting was the largest gathering of military leaders in galactic history. Representatives from 12 star systems had traveled for days to reach the secure facility on Kepler Station. The holographic displays around the circular chamber showed detailed analysis of human capabilities, and none of it was good news. General Vorthak had fought in 17 different wars across 3 centuries. His scarred exoskeleton and missing left arm were proof of his experience in battle. He had seen civilizations rise and fall, had commanded fleets that conquered entire systems. Nothing in his long military career had prepared him for the data he was reviewing about the humans. "These creatures are not just advanced," he announced to the assembled officers. "They are completely insane. Look at this." The central display showed a human documentary about something called World War II. They fought a global war using chemical explosives and primitive aircraft. During this war, they invented nuclear weapons and immediately used them on their own species. The gathered military leaders watched in horror as the display showed footage of human cities being destroyed by atomic fire. The destruction was complete and terrible. Any sane species would have been so traumatized by such weapons that they would ban them forever. "That was 80 years ago," General Vorthak continued. "Since then, they have built thousands of these weapons. Each one is 100 times more powerful than the first. They keep them pointed at each other and call it peace through strength." Admiral Kestha of the Hegemony Navy leaned forward in her chair. "Surely they understand the danger of such weapons. What prevents them from destroying themselves?" Dr. Yithlak, the Council's expert on alien psychology, activated another display. "They have a strategy they call mutually assured destruction. The idea is that if anyone uses nuclear weapons, everyone dies. They consider this a reasonable way to prevent war." The chamber fell silent as this information was processed. The concept was so alien to galactic thinking that several officers had to have it explained twice. Most civilizations spent centuries developing safety protocols before they even attempted to build nuclear reactors. The humans had built weapons first and were using the threat of total annihilation as their peace plan. "It gets worse," Dr. Yithlak continued. "We have analyzed their entertainment broadcasts. They create fictional stories about galactic conquest, planet-destroying weapons, and wars between star systems. They consider these scenarios entertaining. They dream about the kind of conflicts that would terrify any reasonable species." The display showed clips from human movies and television shows. Massive space battles with ships the size of cities, weapons that could destroy planets with a single shot. Humans fighting impossible odds against cosmic horrors and winning through determination and superior firepower. They have been mentally preparing for galactic warfare for generations, Dr. Yithlak explained. Every piece of fiction involves humans either conquering the galaxy or defending it against alien threats. They view interstellar conflict as an exciting adventure, not a tragic catastrophe. Commander Zelix of the Outer Rim Defense Force raised a concerned question. What about their actual military capabilities? Do they pose a real threat to our forces? General Vorthak activated a new set of displays showing human military technology. The assembled officers watched with growing alarm as the data was presented. Human warships carried enough firepower to level continents. Their defensive systems could track and destroy thousands of incoming missiles simultaneously. Their soldiers wore powered armor that made them faster and stronger than most alien species. Their largest military vessel generates more energy than our entire home fleet, General Vorthak announced. They call it a carrier and use it to transport smaller attack craft. Each of those attack craft carries weapons capable of destroying our largest battleships. The most disturbing information came when they analyzed human military doctrine. Unlike other species that viewed war as a last resort, humans had developed countless strategies for different types of conflicts. They had plans for fighting in space, on planets, in asteroid fields, and even inside the atmosphere of gas giants. They have a saying, Dr. Yithlak noted, "If you want peace, prepare for war." They have been preparing for every possible type of war for their entire recorded history. They do not see conflict as something to avoid, but as something to be ready for. High Counselor Zareth, who had been silent throughout the presentation, finally spoke. The solution is obvious. We cannot allow this madness to spread beyond their system. We must strike immediately, before they have time to establish themselves in our territory. Many of the military leaders nodded in agreement. A preemptive strike made tactical sense. The humans were still confined to their solar system and had only a few ships in deep space. It would never be easier to contain them than it was right now. But Elder Sage Kithrin raised a trembling appendage and spoke in his ancient, careful voice. What if we are already too late? What if this is exactly what they want us to think? The chamber turned to look at the elderly philosopher. Kithrin had advised the council for over 400 years and had never been wrong about major strategic decisions. Consider their behavior, Kithrin continued. They broadcast their military capabilities openly. They share detailed information about their weapons and tactics. They announce their intentions to explore the galaxy and make contact with other species. This could be remarkable openness or it could be psychological warfare. The military leaders exchanged worried glances. Psychological warfare was a concept they understood, but applying it to first contact was something new and disturbing. They may want us to attack first, Kithron explained. Once we fire the first shot, they become the defenders instead of the aggressors. Their entire fictional entertainment industry focuses on humans defeating superior alien forces through courage and determination. They may have planned for exactly this scenario. General Vorthak studied the data again with this new perspective. You think they are deliberately provoking us into attacking them? I think they are completely unpredictable, Kithrin replied. They develop planet-killing weapons and then offer to share the technology as gifts. They create strategies for galactic war and call it entertainment. They advance 10,000 years in less than a century and act like this is normal. We have no framework for understanding their behavior. The debate continued for hours. Some officers argued for immediate military action. Others suggested attempting diplomatic contact. A few recommended fleeing to another galaxy and hoping the humans would not follow. As they argued, new reports arrived from the monitoring stations. More human ships were launching from their homeworld. These vessels were larger than anything they had built before, and were heading directly toward known Council territories. The most disturbing report came from deep space reconnaissance. The humans had somehow detected the Council's monitoring stations, and were sending friendly greetings to each one. They knew exactly where the Council's hidden facilities were located and were treating their discovery like a pleasant surprise. Admiral Kestha stared at the latest intelligence reports and felt her confidence crumbling. How long have they known we were watching them? Unknown, replied General Vorthak. But given their rate of technological advancement, they may have been aware of our surveillance for years. They may have been deliberately putting on a show for our benefit. The War Council was beginning to realize that they were not dealing with a primitive species that had stumbled onto advanced technology. They were dealing with something that had outmaneuvered them before they even knew a game was being played. High Counselor Zareth called for a final vote on military action, but before the vote could be taken, an emergency alert sounded throughout the facility. A human vessel had just appeared in the outer system and was requesting permission to dock. The humans were no longer coming. They were here. The human vessel, UES Indomitable, appeared at the edge of Council space without any of the stealth or caution that normally marked first contact situations. Instead of hiding or approaching slowly, it broadcast greetings on every known frequency simultaneously. The message was cheerful, friendly, and absolutely terrifying to anyone who understood what they were seeing. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her ship, looking at the massive alien space station through the main viewing screen. She had dreamed of this moment since she was a child reading science fiction stories. Humanity was about to make first contact with an alien civilization, and she had the incredible honor of representing her entire species. All stations report ready. Captain, announced her first officer, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez. The diplomatic team is prepared, the translation protocols are online, and the gift packages are loaded in Cargo Bay 3. Captain Chen smiled as she activated the communication system. After months of analyzing alien transmissions, her crew had managed to decode what appeared to be a standard galactic language. Their linguists were confident they could communicate effectively, and their anthropologists had prepared cultural briefings based on observed alien behavior. "Attention Kepler Station," Captain Chen broadcast. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earthship Indomitable. We come in peace and friendship. We would be honored to meet with your representatives and establish formal diplomatic relations between our peoples." On Kepler Station, the Council's first contact team was in complete panic. Ambassador Thelvan had trained for 30 years in proper diplomatic protocols. He knew exactly how first contact situations were supposed to proceed. The aliens were supposed to be nervous, cautious, and overwhelmed by the superiority of galactic civilization. They were not supposed to arrive in a ship that radiated enough energy to power a small planet, while broadcasting cheerful greetings in perfect galactic standard. "How do they know our language?" whispered Dr. Meltar, the station's chief linguist. "First contact protocols require months of careful translation work. They should not be able to communicate with us at all." Ambassador Thelvan was wondering the same thing, but he had more immediate concerns. The human ship was requesting permission to dock, and refusing would likely be seen as an act of hostility. Given what the War Council had learned about human military capabilities, making them angry seemed like a very bad idea. "Grant them docking permission at Bay 7, Thelvan decided. "Activate all security protocols and have medical teams standing by. We have no idea what these creatures are really like." 30 minutes later, Captain Chen and her diplomatic team walked through the docking tube into Kepler Station. The aliens were roughly humanoid but with obvious differences. Extra limbs, different skin colors, and various technological implants. What surprised Chen was how nervous they all seemed. She had expected first contact to be exciting for both sides. "Greetings," said Ambassador Thelvan, using the formal diplomatic introduction he had memorized decades ago. "I am Ambassador Thelvan, representing the Galactic Council. We welcome you to Kepler Station and extend our hopes for peaceful relations between our peoples." "Thank you so much," replied Captain Chen with genuine enthusiasm. "This is absolutely incredible. We've been hoping to meet other intelligent species for centuries. We brought gifts." She gestured to Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, who was carrying several sealed containers. The alien security team immediately tensed, reaching for their weapons. Gift-giving during first contact was unusual and potentially dangerous. The containers could contain anything from biological weapons to espionage devices. "Please do not be alarmed," Captain Chen said quickly, noticing their reaction. "We brought examples of human art, music, and literature. We also have some basic technical specifications for our fusion reactors and medical scanners. We thought you might be interested in comparing notes on technology." Ambassador Thelvan felt his blood pressure spike. The humans were offering to share their technology during their first meeting. The same technology that had allowed them to advance 10,000 years in a few decades. They were treating planet-killing fusion reactors like recipe exchanges between neighbors. "That is very generous," Thelvan managed to say. "Perhaps we should begin with cultural exchanges before discussing technical matters." "Of course," Captain Chen agreed. "We're curious about your history, your art, your philosophy. We want to learn everything about how your civilization developed. It must have taken incredible wisdom to build something as peaceful and stable as the Galactic Council." Dr. Meltar leaned over to whisper in Thelvan's ear. "She thinks we are peaceful and stable. Should we tell her about the Hegemony Wars or the Great Purge? Thelvan decided that particular conversation could wait. We would be happy to share our cultural heritage with you. Perhaps you could tell us about human civilization. We are curious about how your species developed so rapidly. Captain Chen's face lit up with excitement. Oh, we love talking about human history. It's been quite an adventure. We've had thousands of wars, developed incredible art and music, built amazing cities, and overcome challenges that seemed impossible. The last century has been particularly exciting with spaceflight, nuclear energy, and artificial intelligence. The casual way she mentioned thousands of wars made several alien diplomats take a step backward. Most civilized species had perhaps a dozen major conflicts in their entire history. The humans spoke about warfare like it was a hobby. We brought some of our favorite historical documentaries, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez added helpfully, including coverage of World War II, the Cold War, and the Mars Colony Rebellion. We thought you might enjoy seeing how we solved various social and technological challenges. Ambassador Thelvan was beginning to understand why the War Council had been so concerned. The humans discussed planet-threatening conflicts like they were entertainment programs. They had fought wars in space and considered it a learning experience. The cultural exchange continued in the station's main conference room. Captain Chen and her team were enthusiastic about everything they saw. They asked detailed questions about alien technology, philosophy, and social structures. They took careful notes and expressed genuine interest in learning about galactic civilization. What disturbed the alien diplomats was how confident the humans seemed. Most species were overwhelmed by their first exposure to galactic technology and culture. They realized how primitive their civilization was compared to the vast community of star-faring races. The humans showed no such reaction. They examined alien technology with the interest of equals rather than the awe of primitives. When shown examples of advanced galactic engineering, they nodded appreciatively and began discussing how human techniques might solve similar problems more efficiently. Your fusion reactors are fascinating, Captain Chen commented while examining a technical display. We use a different approach that generates about 30% more energy per unit of fuel. We'd be happy to share the specifications if you're interested. The alien engineers exchanged worried glances. Their fusion technology represented thousands of years of careful development and safety testing. The humans had apparently surpassed it in less than a century, and were offering to give away the improvements for free. As the day progressed, it became clear that the humans viewed this meeting as the beginning of a wonderful friendship, rather than a formal diplomatic negotiation. They offered to share everything from medical knowledge to entertainment media. They expressed excitement about exploring the galaxy together and learning about other civilizations. The most disturbing moment came when Captain Chen casually mentioned their defensive capabilities. "Don't worry about space pirates or hostile forces," she said cheerfully. "The Indomitable has enough firepower to handle pretty much anything. Our point defense systems can track and eliminate thousands of incoming projectiles simultaneously, and our main weapons can sterilize a continent from orbit if necessary. But we're here to make friends, not fight wars." Ambassador Thelvan excused himself and called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. "They just described weapons that could destroy our entire defense fleet," he told them. "And they mentioned it like they were discussing the weather. Perhaps we should ask them about their intentions," suggested Dr. Meltar. "Find out what they really want from this contact." When the meeting resumed, Thelvan carefully brought up the question of human goals for galactic contact. Captain Chen's answer was both reassuring and terrifying. "We want to be friends with everyone," she said simply. "We want to explore the galaxy, learn new things, share what we know, and help solve problems. We think the universe is big enough for everyone to find something interesting to do." "And if other species do not wish to be friends?" Thelvan asked carefully. Captain Chen looked genuinely puzzled by the question. "Why wouldn't they want to be friends? We have so much to offer each other. We can share technology, culture, art, music, and stories. We can explore together and solve challenges that none of us could handle alone. The universe is full of amazing things to discover." Her innocent enthusiasm was somehow more frightening than any military threat. The humans genuinely believed that everyone in the galaxy would want to join their adventure of constant exploration and technological advancement. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was held in the deepest, most secure chamber on the capital world of Centurus Prime. For the first time in recorded history, every member species had sent their highest representatives. The chamber that normally held a few dozen delegates now contained over 300 of the galaxy's most important leaders. High Counselor Zareth called the session to order with a voice that trembled despite her efforts to remain calm. We are here to discuss the human situation. In the 3 weeks since first contact, our intelligence division has compiled a comprehensive analysis of human civilization. What we have learned changes everything we thought we knew about species development. Dr. Yithlak, the Council's chief xenopsychologist, stepped forward to present his findings. His normally steady demeanor showed signs of the stress that had consumed him since he began studying human behavior patterns. Distinguished representatives, I must begin with a warning. What I am about to tell you will challenge every assumption we have made about how intelligent species develop. The massive display screens around the chamber activated, showing charts and graphs that hurt to look at. The data represented thousands of years of careful research into how civilizations grew and matured. The human data broke every pattern they had ever observed. Human technological advancement is not random, Dr. Yithlak announced. It follows a specific pattern that we have never seen before. They do not develop technology to solve problems. They develop technology to compete with other humans. Every major advancement in their history was driven by conflict or the threat of conflict. The assembled delegates murmured among themselves as this information was processed. Most species developed technology slowly and carefully, with extensive safety testing and social consensus. The idea of advancement driven by competition was alien to galactic thinking. Consider their space program, Dr. Yithlak continued. They reached their moon not through careful scientific exploration, but because two human nations were competing to prove their superiority. They built rockets capable of carrying nuclear weapons to other continents, then used the same technology to explore space. Elder Sage Kithron raised a concerned question. You are saying they developed interplanetary travel as a side effect of building better weapons? Exactly, Dr. Yithlak confirmed. Every major human technological breakthrough has military origins. Their computers were built to calculate missile trajectories. Their satellites were designed for military surveillance. Their fusion reactors were developed from hydrogen bomb research. They do not separate civilian and military technology because they do not see a difference. The chamber fell silent as delegates tried to process this information. The concept was so foreign to their understanding that many struggled to believe it was real. Civilized species develop technology for the betterment of all citizens. The idea of advancement driven by warfare was barely comprehensible. Dr. Vexhan, the Council's expert on technological development, presented the next section of the analysis. The speed of human advancement is equally disturbing. Our models predict that it takes approximately 10,000 years for a species to safely develop fusion technology. Humans accomplish this in less than 100 years, through a process they call trial and error. The display showed a timeline of human technological development that made several delegates feel ill. The progression from steam engines to nuclear weapons had taken less time than most species needed to develop safe metalworking techniques. They do not test for safety, Dr. Vexhan explained. They build things as quickly as possible, try them out, and improve the designs based on what explodes and what does not. They call this innovation and consider it a desirable trait. Ambassador Kralix of the Outer Rim Coalition asked the question that everyone was thinking. How have they avoided destroying themselves? This level of reckless development should have led to extinction centuries ago. Dr. Yithlak activated a new display showing human social structures. This brings us to the most disturbing aspect of human psychology. They have optimized their entire civilization for survival under constant threat. They do not seek peace and stability like other species. They seek challenges and competition. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. Human history was a continuous cycle of conflict, crisis, and technological breakthrough. They had fought wars with every weapon they could invent, survived multiple near extinctions, and emerged stronger from each catastrophe. They have a saying, Dr. Yithlak noted, "What does not kill you makes you stronger." They actively seek out dangerous situations because they believe adversity improves their abilities. They consider peace and stability to be boring and potentially dangerous. The psychological profile that emerged from the analysis painted a picture of a species unlike anything in galactic history. Humans were cooperative and competitive simultaneously. They formed alliances with former enemies, shared technology with rivals, and treated existential threats as interesting problems to solve. Look at their entertainment industry, Dr. Yithlak continued. They create fictional stories about galactic conquest, planet-destroying weapons, and wars against cosmic horrors. They do not view these scenarios as nightmares to be avoided. They see them as exciting adventures to be anticipated. The display showed examples of human science fiction that made the assembled delegates question their sanity. Stories about humans fighting superior alien forces and winning through determination and clever tactics. Tales of galactic empires built on human ingenuity and adaptability. Narratives where humans faced impossible odds and emerged victorious through sacrifice and courage. They have been mentally preparing for galactic warfare for generations, Dr. Yithlak explained. Every piece of fiction they create involves scenarios that would terrify any reasonable species. They view interstellar conflict as entertainment and consider themselves the protagonists of a cosmic adventure story. High Counselor Zareth stood slowly, her aged frame struggling with the weight of what she was hearing. Are you telling us that the humans see us as characters in their entertainment programs? Worse, Dr. Yithlak replied. They see us as potential friends who will join them in their adventures. They genuinely believe that every species in the galaxy will want to participate in their constant cycle of exploration, innovation, and problem-solving. The final revelation came when Dr. Meltar presented his analysis of human communication patterns. They have been broadcasting detailed information about their military capabilities for decades, not as a threat but as entertainment. They share their strategies, weapons designs, and tactical thinking because they find it interesting. The assembled delegates realized they were dealing with a species that had no concept of information security. Humans discussed their most advanced military technology openly because they assumed everyone shared their enthusiasm for innovation and improvement. They want us to learn from their techniques, Dr. Meltar explained. They believe that sharing military technology will make everyone stronger and more capable. They do not understand why other species would want to keep secrets or maintain technological advantages. Elder Sage Kithran spoke for the entire assembly when he asked the question that haunted them all. What do they want from us? Dr. Yithlak's answer was simple and absolutely terrifying. They want us to join their civilization. They see the Galactic Council as a collection of potential friends who have been waiting for them to arrive. They believe we will all benefit from adopting their approach to constant innovation and competitive cooperation. The chamber erupted in panicked discussions as the implications became clear. The humans were not planning to conquer the galaxy through military force. They were planning to transform it through infectious enthusiasm and irresistible technological advancement. They are offering to share everything, Dr. Yithlak continued. Their fusion technology, their artificial intelligence, their medical advances, their space travel capabilities. They want to give it all away because they believe that everyone working together will create even better innovations. High Counselor Zareth called for order as the debates grew more heated. The question before us is simple. Do we resist this transformation or do we embrace it? How can we resist it? Asked Ambassador Thelvan, who had spent weeks dealing directly with human diplomats. They are offering to solve every technological and social challenge we face. They want to share medical treatments that could extend our lifespans by centuries. They have energy technologies that could eliminate resource scarcity forever. But at what cost? Demanded General Vorthak. They will turn our peaceful civilization into their competitive playground. They will make us all participants in their endless cycle of conflict and advancement. Elder Sage Kithran raised his ancient voice above the arguments. Perhaps the choice has already been made for us. The humans are not asking for permission to transform galactic civilization. They are simply assuming that we will want to join them once we understand the benefits. The truth of his words settled over the assembly. 6 months after first contact, the Galactic Council chambers looked nothing like they had for the previous 50,000 years. The ancient formal meeting space had been transformed into a dynamic hub of activity that never seemed to sleep. Representatives from hundreds of species worked around the clock on projects that would have been unthinkable before the humans arrived. Elder Sage Kithran sat in his traditional chair, watching the controlled chaos with a mixture of exhaustion and amazement. The stress headaches had started 3 months ago and showed no signs of stopping. His species had evolved to value careful contemplation and measured decision-making. The constant stream of human innovations and proposals was pushing his ancient mind to its limits. Status report from the Sol Centurus communication relay, announced Captain Chen, who now held the official title of Earth's first galactic ambassador. Her cheerful voice cut through the background noise of dozens of simultaneous conversations. The installation is complete and testing at 112% of projected efficiency. The assembled delegates nodded with the weary acceptance that had become their normal response to human engineering achievements. The communication relay was supposed to be impossible according to galactic physics. The humans had built it anyway and somehow made it work better than their own calculations predicted. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, Captain Chen continued, consulting a datapad that contained more projects than most civilizations completed in a century. The joint exploration mission to the Andromeda Galaxy has been approved by the Earth Science Council. We'll need volunteers from member species for the crew. Ambassador Thelvan raised a tired appendage. Over the past 6 months, he had learned that volunteering for human projects was both exhausting and strangely addictive. What exactly would this mission involve? Oh, it's exciting, Captain Chen replied with her characteristic enthusiasm. We want to see if there are other intelligent species in Andromeda. The engineering team has designed a new type of faster-than-light drive that should get us there in about 18 months. As a bonus, the new drive technology will make interstellar travel about 1,000 times faster for everyone. The casual way she mentioned revolutionizing galactic transportation made several delegates reach for their stress medication. The humans had a habit of treating breakthrough discoveries like minor side effects of their main projects. Dr. Meltar, who had been working with human linguists for months, spoke up with obvious fatigue. Captain Chen, your people have submitted 47 new technological innovations this week. Our review committees cannot keep up with the pace of evaluation. Sorry about that, Captain Chen said, genuinely apologetic. We know you like to test things thoroughly before implementation. But our scientists get excited when they solve problems, and they keep finding new problems to solve. Maybe we could streamline the approval process. High Counselor Zareth, who had aged visibly in the past 6 months, spoke carefully. Perhaps we could discuss some form of prioritization system for human innovations. Not all improvements need to be implemented immediately. Captain Chen looked puzzled. But why would you want to delay improvements? The new medical scanners can detect diseases a century before symptoms appear. The improved fusion reactors generate 50 times more energy with zero waste. The enhanced food synthesizers can create perfect nutrition while making everything taste like whatever you want. The logic was unassailable and absolutely maddening. Every human innovation genuinely improved life for everyone in the galaxy. The problem was that they never stopped improving things. As soon as one breakthrough was implemented, they had already designed something better. The hegemony shipyards have submitted a formal request, announced Admiral Kesitha, reading from her own overwhelming list of human-influenced developments. They want to upgrade their entire fleet with human defensive systems and weapons technology. The improvements would make their ships about 10 times more powerful. Approved, said Captain Chen immediately. We'll send technical teams next week. Oh, and we should probably upgrade their manufacturing facilities while we're there. The new automated systems will let them build ships about 100 times faster. General Vorthak, whose military career had been turned upside down by human tactical innovations, asked the question that kept him awake at night. Captain Chen, does your species have any limitations? Is there anything you cannot or will not improve? Captain Chen considered the question seriously. Well, we haven't figured out how to travel backwards in time yet, and we're still working on creating matter from pure energy, but give us a few years. Our theoretical physics team thinks both problems are solvable. The assembled delegates sat in stunned silence. The humans were casually discussing technologies that approached the level of cosmic forces. They spoke about manipulating time and energy like they were planning home renovation projects. There is one other item, Captain Chen continued, checking her datapad. Earth has received approval from the Human Colonial Council to begin terraforming uninhabited worlds for other species. We've identified about 12,000 planets that could be modified to support various forms of life. Ambassador Krelix of the Outer Rim Coalition leaned forward with interest. Terraforming 12,000 worlds? How long would such a project take? About 15 years if we work alone, Captain Chen replied. but we're hoping other species will want to help. Working together, we could probably finish in about 5 years. Plus, the terraforming technology will give us better techniques for environmental restoration on existing worlds. The transformation of galactic civilization was proceeding exactly as the humans had assumed it would. They offered solutions to every problem, improvements to every system, and innovations that made previously impossible things seem routine. The other species found themselves drawn into the human cycle of constant advancement, whether they wanted to be or not. Dr. Yithlak, who had spent months studying human psychology, presented his latest findings to the Council. I have reached a conclusion about human behavior that explains everything we have observed. They do not see problems as obstacles to be avoided. They see problems as entertainment to be enjoyed. The statement was so alien to galactic thinking that it took several minutes for the implications to be understood. Most species work to eliminate challenges and achieve stability. The humans actively sought out new challenges because they found problem-solving to be fun. This explains their approach to first contact, Dr. Yithlak continued. They did not prepare for meeting alien species because they expected difficulties. They prepared because they thought it would be the most interesting thing they had ever done. Elder Sage Kithran spoke for the entire assembly when he addressed the fundamental question that had been troubling them all. Captain Chen, what will happen when your species runs out of problems to solve? What will you do when everything has been improved and optimized? Captain Chen's face lit up with excitement. Oh, that's the best part. The universe is really, really big. There are billions of galaxies out there, each one full of new things to discover and new challenges to solve. We figure we have enough interesting projects to keep us busy for a few million years at least. The scope of human ambition was breathtaking and terrifying. They were not planning to improve just their local area, or even their galaxy. They were planning to systematically explore and enhance the entire universe. Besides, Captain Chen added cheerfully, by the time we finish exploring everything that exists, we'll probably have figured out how to create new universes to explore. The theoretical physics team has some really interesting ideas about dimensional engineering. High Counselor Zareth stood slowly, her ancient frame struggling with the weight of cosmic responsibility. Captain Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I officially welcome humanity to our community. We look forward to joining you in your adventures. The words were carefully chosen to hide the truth that everyone in the chamber understood. The Galactic Council was not welcoming humans to their community. They were accepting their inclusion in humanity's grand project of universal improvement. That's wonderful, Captain Chen replied with genuine happiness. This is going to be so much fun. We have projects planned for stellar engineering, galaxy-wide communication networks, and interdimensional exploration. Everyone's going to love working together on this stuff. As the session ended, Elder Sage Kithran remained in his chair, contemplating the transformation that had consumed his civilization. The peaceful, stable galactic community that had existed for millennia was gone forever. In its place was something dynamic, chaotic, and undeniably exciting. The humans had not conquered the galaxy through military force or economic dominance. They had conquered it through infectious enthusiasm and an irresistible vision of what the universe could become. They had made everyone participants in their cosmic adventure simply by assuming that everyone would want to join. For the first time in months, Kithran found himself smiling. The stress headaches were still there, and the constant stream of innovations was still overwhelming. But he had to admit that existence had become much more interesting since the humans arrived.